Yes, lads, and welcome back to Shut the FA Cup, the podcast made by the fans for the fans. Hope you had a lovely weekend. We're joined today by Luke, James, Cohen, and Alex. How are we doing today, lads?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Doing good. How about
you? Yeah, I'm okay.
Good. Well, I could be better. Saints were in my mood as usual, but we've got a lot to talk about. So before we start, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Shut the FA Cup Pod. And make sure you follow our partners on Twitter too, at Tops Football, that's at Tops FTBL, for the best mystery kits the game has ever seen. Use our discount code SHUSH10 for 10% off. Not sure why it's that, but SHUSH10 for your mystery shirt. Let's start with the top story this week anyway, everyone's favourite VAR. There's been a lot all over the news really this week. Let's start with Southampton Villa. James, your thoughts?
Oh, wow. It's just getting a bit boring to talk about now, isn't it? It's the same stuff constantly repeating itself every week. All the same incidents, the stupidest of margins, stuff players can't even control themselves, like 1 minute, one week it can be their big toe. Next week it can be like the shirt. We saw again with Ings. I think it's just ridiculous how they can be absolutely definite that those slimmest of margins are onside or offside. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. I 100% agree. I think, I said it earlier and I'll say it again. With the handball situation is in the offside. If his sleeve is offside, if he scores with that exact area which is offside, is that not going to be disallowed for handball even if he is onside? It's a weird one for me. I don't really understand how you can give a body part which you can't score with offside, but look, that's the rules. The one for me personally, and Cohen, I know that this was one that really angered you. Also, notice I said Cohen, not Cohen. The handball situation. I mean, personally for me, I thought that they were looking at VAR for it to be a red card, but you tell me.
Yeah, I think it's stupid because clearly, yes, it comes off his thigh. I mean, marginally, like it hardly affects the flight of the ball, but it comes off his thigh and then it hits his arm, but it's still going in the goal. So I don't quite understand how that isn't a handball because it stopped a goal scoring opportunity.
Exactly, yeah. Look, maybe as a neutral, Luke and Alex, you two can help us as well because maybe we might be being a little bit more biased toward the situation. But in terms of those two situations alone, do you think VAR's got it wrong? The officials have got it wrong?
Yeah, you're spot on with everything you said. Yeah, they definitely got him wrong. And it's not a coincidence that we, out of the 3 episodes, we spoke about VAR in all 3 because it's just stealing the show in a negative way.
Definitely, yeah. Alex, what's your thoughts on it, mate?
Yeah, I completely agree that what you're saying about how they've got it wrong, it's ruining the game in a sort of way. But it's...
Yeah, 100%. Well, look, that's the worst thing is, we've got plenty of games to talk about alone just this week on the subject. I mean, Villa are in the controversy again earlier this week. The other day. In the Arsenal game, there was a red card, which for me personally, I'll come to that in a minute, which wasn't given, which I think a few people thought maybe should have. But let's talk about the penalty first. James, even as a Villa fan, do you think that they should have looked at that for VAR for it to be a penalty on Lacazette?
I personally think they should have looked at it, yes, but I'd say I don't think it was a penalty because the initial contact came from Lacazette holding on to Martinez's shirt, and then Martinez, as a result of that, he holds back onto Lacazette's shirt, and they both just fall on top of each other. And I personally don't believe that was a penalty.
Yeah, fair enough. Has anyone else got a take on that one?
No. Yeah, I think it was a penalty. I'm going to be honest. I mean, whether he's pulling his shirt or not, he does. I wouldn't say Lacazette's doing enough to sort of stop Martinez from doing what he needs to do, whereas Martinez has pulled him complete to the ground. So personally, I think it's a penalty.
What I would like to just add, is whether it be Martinez or any other Prem goalkeeper, they do get a lot of protection. That's one thing you could argue. They do get a lot of protection, and like if there was to go down, whether it be a foul or not, then 9 times out of 10, the foul will be given in their favour. I think it's frustrating for a fan to see how much protection they get, but I don't see any way how it will change.
Yeah,
I agree.
The keepers do get way too much protection. Any slight touch and it's a free kick, which is another rule that I don't agree with. I'm actually sitting on the fence if it was a penalty or not, because I see both Cohen and James's points. So I'm sitting on the fence with the decision. I honestly, I don't know.
Well, look, my take on it is, I think for me, from what I've seen of it, I think it's a penalty. I think he's been dragged down by the keeper. And I don't even think Lacazette's gone down easily, to be fair. I think he's actually been thrown to the floor. My opinion on that. But the main one for me is the red card situation. There's a lot of mixed opinions on this one. For me, I'm not sure if it's a red card. I think they got it right. I actually think that Saka's actually tripped over. I can't remember if it was he tripped over himself or he literally just kicked. I think it was Concer's foot. But for me,
Yeah.
I don't think that's a red card in my opinion. Does anyone disagree with that one?
No.
No, I agree.
No, I agree.
Yeah, I
100%.
agree with you.
I've got another one actually. If we're talking about decisions this weekend, did anyone watch our game with Chelsea?
I can't say I did.
Well,
No, I didn't.
There is, they had a penalty. Werner got the penalty, and at first watching it, I thought it was a penalty, but then after I've rewatched it, I don't think it were. I think basically what's happened is Ramsdale's come out to win the ball. Werner's took it round him, but Werner's ran into Ramsdale and fell over. Where Ramsdale didn't go into him, it was Werner that's ran into Ramsdale and then gone over for a penalty, and that penalty won them the game. So that's another frustrating decision.
I did see that.
Yeah.
I seen that. Yeah.
I'll be honest. At first, I didn't think it was a penalty. I thought, he's looking for it, but looking for it or not, it has to be a penalty. Although he's kicked the ball away. Ramsdale's committed, and when you commit, you have to win the ball.
Yeah.
Like you can't slide in and then clip them, whether they've got the ball or not. He's brought him down.
I understand that, but my point of view is Werner's ran into him, so Ramsdale can't move out the way. Ramsdale's gone for the ball, and Werner's the one that's ran and actually made the contact. So, for me, I think everyone that hasn't watched that decision needs to watch it after this podcast, and then
for sure,
and then let us know, because it is a tricky one. But maybe I am being a bit biased, because maybe if it was the other way around and I don't know, McGoldrick ran round and did that, then I'd have been screaming for a penalty probably. Yeah. But I think it's another harsh decision that went against us.
Mm. Yeah, I think again, as I said, you can't commit and then not get the ball. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's how football is now. If you go sliding in and you don't win the ball, whether he's looking for it or not, whether he runs into you or not, it's a foul.
Well, it just shows really how bad the game is when we don't even know what's the rules. We should all know what the actual rules are, but because the rules are so unclear, no one has a clue. It's a tricky one.
Well, look, it's definitely another talking point in the situation with VAR in the terms of there's so much we can talk about. I think something has to be said about West Ham Fulham. Souček's red card, absolutely disgraceful. I mean,
that is just beyond belief.
Mike Dean has had his fair share of mistakes, but this one has got to be one of the worst I've seen. I haven't seen a single person on Twitter, and I have to be honest, there are a lot of clowns on that app. I haven't seen a single person say that it's a red card. I just don't understand how. James, do you have any protection for how that's a red? Because it's beyond me.
I think I don't have any protection for how it was a red, but I think Lee Mason, his reasoning was that Souček had a clenched fist. Where if you watch the replays, you can't even see Suchek having a clenched fist at all. With so there's no malice in what he's done at all. He's literally just moving his arm away from Mitrovic, and you could argue why is he moving his arm away? There's no reason to do so, but it's just so he can get a clear run on the ball. And Mitrovic literally went to Mike Dean. He said, "Oh, there was no intention with it at all." But Mike Dean just has to make the game about himself again. He has there's 3 games in a row where he's made the game about himself, and I just don't get it how he can do that. He's just ruining the game.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you on that. I think, the good news is that today it's been rescinded the red card, so Suchek can play again, which is good.
Well, that's not good.
It's
Not
just
good for me or us, but
well, in my opinion on that is, do you know what, the rescinded red cards? They should be so rare now with VAR that they happen maybe once a season. At most, do you know what I mean?
It's happened
because the amount of technology they have, and in the space of a week, we've had 2 red cards rescinded. 2
should have
And
been 3. You could argue with David Luiz.
Yeah, David Luiz as well against Wolves.
Yeah.
For me, that's not a red card. But look, there's so much you can talk about. But I think the main thing we've got to talk about here is Mike Dean. And I know everyone here, we don't condone any of the death threats or any of the abuse that's happened, and it's absolutely disgusting. Saying that, referee-wise, Mike Dean, for me, has to be punished.
I agree.
100%. But I mean,
Yeah,
I was saying earlier, them death threats are now not going to help because the FA are not going to want to punish someone who is, how do I say it? Someone who's been threatened by the fans. They're not now going to go to him and go, "Oh right, yeah, we're going to punish you now," because it just makes it look worse. So the fans have ruined it for themselves now because there's no way he's going to get punished.
is it as well? Is his family been threatened as well? I think I read that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
they have.
But that's it's disgusting.
For me,
I mean,
it's
football at the end of the day.
He shouldn't referee in the league again, from my opinion.
No.
But yeah, stuff like that is just wrong.
it's becoming a common theme with referees especially on Twitter, where you'll have people trying to find the referees' addresses, just send abuse to them or even go to their address. And the thing, what they've got to remember is they are human as well. They have their own lives. They've got families. They've got children.
To shut the FA Cup.
Families. They've got children.
100%.
And this whole finding their addresses, it's not right at all. It's taking it way too far than it should be.
Definitely.
They're just doing what they're paid to do. They're doing their job.
Well, I think
and it's disgusting.
I agree 100%. I think, like you boys said, I definitely agree with the fact that they're human. But the problem I've got with Mike Dean is it's happened too many times. I actually posted something on Twitter the other day. I'm not sure if you boys saw it, but I wanted to know your thoughts on it. Obviously, there's a lot that would have to happen for this to go round. But in terms of suspensions, you've got, with red cards, if someone gives a red card and it's rescinded, with all this technology, could there be a possibility of that ref taking the suspension on instead as a punishment or as a mistake? Because for me, maybe not necessarily that exactly, but something has to be done to sort of punish them and to stop them. Because VAR was brought in to take away, like they say, clear and obvious mistakes. And I heard Peter Walton say the other day, it's starting to control games and referee games itself. Is that one way to get rid of it? Because if they want to make it a clear and obvious technology, then is that one way that we can get rid of it, by sort of punishing the refs?
Yeah.
Or
Well, players get punished for poor tackles for stuff. So why don't the officials?
I disagree with the suspension. I'll be honest. I think if you're giving referees suspensions for giving wrongful red cards, then they're going to go into the games when they return, and they're not going to want to give red cards in case they make mistakes. So for me, I think there's different ways of doing it. I think you could either make them referee in the Championship, where it's a worse standard, so you're telling them you're not bigger than the league. that
I don't even think Mike Dean's good enough to ref in the Championship, Cohen. I'm being serious.
No, but again, you can't. I don't think suspending him for a few games is going to change anything.
Well, it'll probably. I think they only should get suspended if it's looked at on the monitor, and he still gives it, and then it's still
I think
rescinded, because if he's got a monitor where he can watch replays, he shouldn't be getting it wrong, because he can change his decision. So for me, I think it's down to opinion, but I've got to agree with Ben on the suspension. I think it will stop silly decisions. It'll stop possible refs being biased. I'm not saying there is that, but I think when a big club plays a much smaller club, I think if a 50-50 happens, it's always going to go to the big team for me, or teams with money. That's my opinion. I think, a lot of people will agree on me, especially, Big Six fans. But I think it happened to Wolves and us a lot last year when we were knocking on the door for Europe together. Us two sets of fans noticed it, and it's happened to Southampton a lot this season. And I think teams that aren't the Big Six, that look like they're going to get into the Big Six, are always, when a 50-50 happens, it's always going to not go their way. And I want to see what everybody thinks on that.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree.
I think there's been quite a few incidents this year where you've had a few top six clubs have sort of benefited. I think there's also been maybe situations where I think Liverpool this year have been quite unlucky with a few decisions go their way. I think the Everton game's definitely one to point out. 2 decisions didn't go their way. It cost them probably their best player and cost them 3 points as well. So I don't know if it's necessarily a Big Six thing. I think it's just certain refs. Their problem is they've got an ego, and with the egos clashing on the pitch, when you've got players who will shout at them, who will shout at the ref and will tell them they're wrong, you're instantly going to be in trouble. And with someone like Mike Dean, the worst thing you want to do is get on his bad side, because you can tell he's the sort of person who, for example, if Jordan Henderson's shouting at Mike Dean, Liverpool are going to have decisions go against them. And it's the problem with officials, I think, nowadays, is they have these agendas where they're spoken to badly, and it has to suddenly change how they officiate a game. But I think what these officials need to realise, Mike Dean in particular, is they are there to officiate a game. They're not there to be stars of the show. They're not there to be in the headlines. For me, a good referee, if you've had a good game as a referee, then no one speaks about you. That's a good game.
That's how it should
be. If people are talking about you, then you've done a bad job. You've done a bad job. And, for me, VAR isn't the problem. It's the officials. And I know we've spoken about this before. It's the officials. And you see in other leagues in Europe, they're fine. So why are we not? Is it the officials? Is it the rules?
Well,
but it's something to do with that, isn't it?
Did you see that? I saw it on Twitter probably like last week about a referee. I forgot his name. He's retired, and he said that the Premier League might be. He won't be surprised if they're in court one day. I don't know if anybody saw it. And he said
I've not seen that.
Forgot the lad's name. I think he retired 2012. But he said that they're told as referees to give certain decisions to certain clubs. Like, if that is the case, then, it's ridiculous. And they should go to court, because it's just cheating.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. They should get punished for that, because at the end of the day, it's still ruining the game.
Yeah.
It's killing the enjoyment.
I believe the referee, because why would he lie? He's a retired ref. Why would he lie about it? But I think it needs.
Yeah, he's not exactly got much to lose.
It needs looking into. It needs investigating, because, like I said, I strongly believe referees was harsh on us and Wolves. To do as much as they could so he didn't get in Europe. I do believe that.
So it seems to be in the Premier League, the referees have like a union where, if some decision was to be given incorrect, like some referees would stick up for that decision. You know, it seems like they have a union where they come together and just give reasons for stuff. Well, I just think that's you know, although they're referees, you know, they're all doing the same job. I still think it's ridiculous how they can do that.
Well, all I'm going to say about it is probably the one good thing of us getting relegated, which is now looking, you know, very likely, but we'll get to that later, is that I won't have to put with referees like Mike Dean and stuff like that, you know, for a season at least.
The championship officials, I can tell you, they're not much better.
Yeah, I haven't
really,
well,
terrible.
At least there's no VAR for the now anyway. You know, knowing Marley,
that's the thing though.
Next season, but
that's the thing. People are saying this. Yet when there's a decision that goes against you that VAR could have overturned, people will be quick to say, "Oh, well, if we had VAR, then that would have counted." Yeah. So it's like people are quick to blame it, but then if you did have it and it could have won you a game, then you're blaming the fact you haven't got it.
I think that's actually the problem, Cohen. That's actually the problem with it in the Premier League is, you should be coming out of games going, thank God for VAR today. And there's been too many times this season. I mean, there's been too many times this week for a whole season where they've just been getting it wrong. And they should be getting it right. And it's, what is the actual point in VAR if they can't use it properly? Because there's so many good things to it. I'm not putting down VAR, but it's the officials are getting it wrong, and it's the problem with it is, like you said, people are saying, oh, if we have VAR, this decision would have been given, but there's a good chance that it probably wouldn't have been with our officials at the moment. But anyway, we've spoken a lot about VAR. We can move on swiftly to a couple of positive notes, especially a positive for Alex, I know. We've got to talk about Manchester City. I believe yesterday we tweeted out about City having one hand on the Premier League trophy. Not sure if that's extreme or not, to be honest. I think yesterday was a big leap forward. Alex, big win yesterday.
Yeah, it's. I reckon that's us. That's us. I mean, I know it's not that close to the end of the season, but I'd say we have won the title by now, surely. Like with the form we're on, the form all the players are on, even Ilkay Gundogan, after missing that pen, he still went on and scored the goals. So, and Foden as well, he's a world class player, I'd say. He's
just get on to Foden in a minute, but I think a lot of credit has to go to Pep. He gets a lot of abuse online. He gets fraudiola. He gets every name under the sun. But I think for once he's starting to stick with the team, and players that have come in are starting to do a job. I mean, Gundogan's been phenomenal this season, hasn't he? I know he missed that penalty, but he's been great this year. Bernardo Silva yesterday. Did he come on? I think. Did he start? I can't really remember.
Yeah,
but he came on.
He started. I think.
But he was brilliant for the was it the third or fourth goal? I think a lot of credit's got to go to him because they don't talk enough on the positive side of Pep. I know they spent a lot of money, and I know that a lot of people are going to clown it, but I think recently, you've won however many in a row now, and it's massive. But yeah, let's talk about Phil Foden anyway, because he's definitely right now one of the hottest players in the Premier League. Would you go as far as saying he's generational, Luke?
I would, yeah. I think it's hard to see when a lot of the time. Well, he's getting more minutes now, but a lot of the time last season, a lot of time this season, he's not been playing. But I think if he would have been at another club, like, for example, Dortmund, you look at Sancho, I know they do play slightly different positions, but I think he's on Jadon Sancho's level in terms of ability, but it just isn't seen as much because he doesn't get as much minutes as him, with that quality should. I think Foden is levels above Greenwood, levels above Martinelli, Saka, any other youngster in that league. No one can tell me different. I think he's absolutely quality, and I think if he doesn't start playing every single game for City soon, I've always said he should look elsewhere, but he is slowly getting into that side, especially with De Bruyne's injury. But he's a player that should, at his young age, be showcasing every week his talent. So he needs a club where he's going to play every game, and I hope for him it's City.
Yeah.
What I'd just like to add to that is with this system that City are playing right now, I think it really suits Foden well. He's playing as like a false nine, but he could either switch onto the wings, and it's really suiting him well. I think Pep did something similar at Barcelona with Messi, and obviously I'm not comparing Foden to Messi here, but it's similar. You can see the resemblance between the two, and I think it's really suiting Foden. I think his influence on games is really growing now, and I think you look at last season in this game, he would have been took off to replace by Jesus, but this game he stayed on. And, he scored a beautiful goal for the fourth for City. And I think as the season goes on and as years to come, I think he's only going to get better, and I think they've found that perfect replacement for David Silva in that role.
Do you think he's going to be better than David Silva?
I think it's tough to judge right now, but there's no reason with this potential that he's got. There's no reason why he can't be one of the best players in the world, even let alone David Silva's
I think he's
level.
going to be England's best player when he hits his prime, definitely.
Yeah, when he's at his prime, he could be.
We should be driving England forward.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the most dangerous players in terms of England. I will cut back on the one bit you said, Luke. You said some of the players he was, clear of in the league.
Yeah.
Going to Arsenal, I'm a big fan of Saka. Now, I'm not saying he's necessarily at the level of Foden or he's necessarily better than him, but I think Saka's one that doesn't get a lot of credit. The only team who he seems to get credit from are Arsenal fans. But see him personally, Cohen, you can back me up on this. He was phenomenal against Southampton, and he seems to keep doing it against us as well. I've seen a few times this season he's played, and he just seems to pull the strings in that team. And I think it's quite a similar situation with Foden. When City was struggling a little bit near the start of the season, he was sort of the bright spark. In the FA Cup game against Cheltenham, a completely different ability, but it's a difficult one. 1-0 down against a team who, from the start, were happy to have actually let City have the ball. They played a different sort of game, Cheltenham against Man City, and Foden was the bright spark. And I think it's similar with Saka. Saka's had to do it a couple of times on his own for Arsenal, and he's sort of been the main man. And I think they're in a similar sort of situation. Like I said, I'm not saying that he's necessarily better than Foden, but I do think Saka deserves to be credited as much as Foden.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Your opinion. I think what you're saying is right. Saka definitely is underrated in terms of rival fans, but for me, obviously, it's down to just personal opinion. I think Foden's clear of everyone else, but that's an opinion I've had for a while.
I want to say personally, I think the difference that makes Foden a little bit better than Saka, I wouldn't say he's much better than Saka. I think they're both class players, but I think just that little bit extra is Foden's footballing mind. I think he can play different positions, different styles, whereas I don't really see Saka playing.
Actually, Cohen, even though I don't rate Saka as much as Foden, Saka has played left back for Arsenal as well. Yeah,
he's very versatile.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, but I think for me, Foden technically is. I think he can play in different type of systems than Saka can. You look at how Man City play. I think any job he's asked to do, he'll do.
I think that's a similar situation for Saka. I don't know. He can play anywhere really. I think maybe that can be the one problem with him in terms of Foden is sort of starting to find his position now. Like you said earlier, James, a false nine looks to be his position. The sort of Messi role, we're not comparing him to Messi, but he's doing the Messi role in a Guardiola team. Whereas with Saka, I think he's had to play so many positions. It's probably quite difficult because I personally don't know what position to call him. I'd probably just say he's a wide player, to be honest. But
Yeah.
he can even play central, can't he? So,
he needs to find
yeah.
that. He needs to find that, and Arteta needs to find him his position as soon as possible, because he's only well, he'll get much better if he's got a set position to play. It's nice to be
definitely.
versatile, but he needs a main position.
100%.
What I'd just like to say on that is, with Arsenal, they don't have enough the quality of players as like City do, and I feel like Saka sometimes has to like play in different roles to what his preferred role is, because of the players that Arsenal have in that other positions are not good enough. Whereas with City, Foden can just play in that false nine because they have Mahrez, Bernardo Silva, Sterling, all wingers, Ferran Torres as well, all wingers to play in that position. And I think like that's one of the reasons why he's more suited. Like he has a preferred position.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that one. Let's turn into a Foden and Saka debate, which we love. But we'll move on anyway to City's opponents yesterday, Liverpool. Bit of a weird one, because this time last year everyone was, raving, and even people were arguing, are they the best team to ever play in the Premier League? They've had their injuries, everyone knows that, and we will get onto that in a minute. But they're looking weak right now. And after having a couple of good wins, they were brilliant against Spurs, I thought. They were absolutely demoralised yesterday, I thought. And do you think that injuries is something that Klopp can keep using, Cohen, or is it something that are you similar to me where it's like it's happening for everyone?
Yeah, I think Liverpool have some quality players. Like, Van Dijk's probably their best one, but they've got to react better than, we've got injuries. We've had 11 injuries. We haven't moaned. We've got up. We've kept playing, and we haven't moaned once. So I don't think you can blame injuries at all. I think he needs to trust his new signings, because you can't keep playing Fabinho and Henderson at centre back. And that, I think they're lacking a leader in midfield, and I think having Henderson as centre back, I don't know what he's thinking, because he's got two new centre backs there who can easily do a job, but he still feels like he needs to play Henderson.
I think it was always a bit risky to throw them in against potentially the biggest game of the season against City. I think I couldn't understand why he kept Henderson and Fabinho, but I do agree that the centre backs should play more now.
I agree. Sorry, I agree with James on that. In the sense of, I think that it's a sort of back four that they've weirdly enough had for a lot of the year now. They're definitely missing a leader in the midfield. That Henderson, in midfield. But like yesterday, I think Fabinho's actually been pretty decent at centre back all year. In fact, he's actually looked like a natural centre back. But yesterday he was, I'd say he was absolutely rinsed really by Foden.
He was rinsed by the best team in the league.
Yeah,
that's why Liverpool are nowhere near City's level this season.
Yeah, well, I agree with you on that, and I think the next bit we'll come on to is Klopp's tactics really. Maybe not necessarily his tactics as a whole, but does he have a plan B? Is anyone starting to see a plan B? Or because for me, whenever I watch,
I personally don't think he does.
Like whenever I watch Liverpool, nothing really he doesn't really change anything. And I think that's the difference between a world class side and a class side is, as soon as you found out, you need a plan B, and he doesn't seem to have one at the moment at Liverpool. Alex, is there a difference at City? Can you see a difference in terms of plans, or?
I'd say, watching the games, I'd say it's more just like squad depth. Like, I don't see much change when Pep like swaps the team around. The same like passing football, like pass the ball and move. That's all I'm seeing with Pep.
Yeah, I can see what he means. I think what he's trying to say is,
the squad depth. That's definitely.
I think you look at City's squad depth. Maybe they don't change too much, but even though when you shouldn't blame injuries, when injuries hit, City have a lot better depth. So that's probably why they're coping better than Liverpool.
Again, as well, with that depth, they all know how to play the same system. So I think City have the best system in the league. They have the best tactics in the league. I think when they're playing that football, I don't think anyone can beat them really, like on their good day. So I think if you have it's all good having depth, but if you have the depth and they know how to play the same, I think that's massive.
Klopp, for me, I don't know if anyone knows about it. I wanted to speak about this. He actually blamed Wilder a lot for the results because of what happened with the Premier League managers agreeing on how many subs. I think Klopp wanted 5, didn't he? And Wilder wanted 3. And obviously, 5, it reverted back to 3. And then Klopp, actually, in one of his interviews, blamed Wilder for his team's injuries, which I actually respected Klopp a lot when we come up in the first season. And I look now, and all I see is if he wins, he's happy. And if he doesn't win, I think he moans and just puts the blame on everybody else apart from himself. I've lost a lot of respect
again
for him.
as well.
Yes.
Sorry, James.
See, that's what I think as well with City and Liverpool. Sorry, I think when we played Liverpool in the third round of the FA Cup, they played their full strength squad against our under 23s, and then the next week Klopp was moaning about his players not being able to have a rest, and it's like it doesn't make any sense. Like you have opportunities to rest your players, but you don't do that. You just play them, and then you look for an excuse rather than blaming. Whether thinking yourself, or maybe I've got the tactics wrong today, and maybe I didn't use the correct substitutions. He's looking for other excuses rather than what may be the actual the actual fault.
Well, I saw a stat about Liverpool actually have had the most days off, averaging the most days off since I think it was the start of December per game. Which is quite funny when you think about it, because he seems to say it as if everyone's got an agenda against Liverpool, because everyone's in the same boat. I agree with him in the sense of, I do think players probably deserve a bit more of a rest. I think they've had to play two games a week. Sometimes it actually sort of adds up to 3. It can take a toll on your players, but he has to realise that everybody's in the same boat. You can't keep using it as an excuse. Yesterday's excuse was hilarious. Was it Alisson had cold feet? I mean, what even is that?
That is ridiculous.
It's just becoming such a thing with him now, and I think this is why a lot of people, I mean, not Liverpool fans, but a lot of people are starting to turn on him, because he's starting to just use anything in the book, really anything he can use as an excuse, instead of just turning around and putting his hands up and going, we weren't the better team against Southampton, and I'm not just saying this as a Southampton fan, but they've just been outplayed. They were just outdone, and I'd say for me, probably my man of the match that day was probably Kyle Walker-Peters, who kept Mane, quiet. And I think one of the interviewers asked him, how about Mane and stuff, and he said, well, I think he was fouled 3 or 4 times, and it's just he always goes back to it, but then after always says, but it's not an excuse, and it's something that frustrates me, because he is such a good manager, but he ruins it by, I think, a lot of his interviews, and he always seems to say things, he just says the wrong things. But anyway, Klopp, we've all got our opinions on Klopp. The main question I've got is, this season, with the squad they've got, with the injuries they've got, are Liverpool good enough to compete with Manchester City and potentially Man United?
No, I personally don't think they are. I think the substitutions, their bench, I don't think it's good enough quality. I look to it. I think there's only really Oxlade-Chamberlain, that you could argue to bring on. They've got Origi, Milner is past it. They bring on that Tissiemakis, the left back, when they were 4-1 down yesterday. I just don't think their bench is good enough. Their depth, obviously, the injuries have been factored to that, but I don't think you can't always look to that. And I just feel like the depth of their squad is just not good enough this season.
They're not good enough to compete with City or United.
I think that me and you know, Ben, how much injuries can dampen morale. And I think if they can start getting results, which I don't think they will, I think they'll still finish second, as I said the other day. But no, I don't think they can compete.
Agree with all of you on that. But we spoke about injuries, and yeah, they have had their injuries, and I think they have been unfortunate this year. But I mean, you look at some of the things they've done. I think have been questionable. Taken out on loan Minamino, you could argue it's a good move for them to let him go out on loan, but it's another option going forward for them, who in one game for Southampton has proven exactly why Liverpool wanted him in the first place. And it's interesting that they let him out on loan, and that they stick with the front three when, okay, maybe they don't have the world class players that they could have, and obviously on the bench, and they've got, Jota's been out, but it's interesting that Salah and Mane seem to, well, maybe not Salah. I think Salah's been pretty decent this year, but Mane in particular, has not been his best this year, but seems to get away with it. But anyway, we've spoken enough about Liverpool. We've got our sort of understanding. You spoke about injuries as a Southampton fan, Co, and it's actually going to be the next topic, Southampton. Let's look at the flip side. It's another top story this week, obviously, the decline of Southampton. Top in November, and they're sat in 12th place now after losing, really disappointingly. They lost to 9-men Newcastle on Saturday, and I don't even want to talk about Tuesday. Another 9-0 loss to Manchester United this time. I've got my opinion on it, and I know that a lot of non-Saints fans have their opinion on it. Cohen, is Ralph Hasenhüttl the man for the job? Because, I mean, 2 9-0 losses on your CV, it doesn't look good, does it?
100%. I don't know why anyone can argue differently. I mean, even if we do get rid of him, let's say we do, who's going to come in and replace him? Who's good enough? I can't think of a single person. People have been saying Allegri. Why is Allegri going to come to Southampton when we're 12th and we have no money? He's not. Do you know what I mean? It's stupid. I think it's people. Our fan base alone is so reactionary that people think, oh, it's fine. We can sort it out by sacking our manager. It's not going to work. And yeah, we lost 9-0 2 seasons in a row. But like Hasenhüttl said, last year the team was shit. This year, the team, it was a completely different ball game. So I think for me, I think he has to stay.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, there's no one else who's going to come in and do the job he's done. And if there's anyone to turn it around, it will be Hasenhüttl. We're really looking for a response on Saturday against Newcastle, and you could argue that was more upsetting than the actual 9-0 itself. Saturday, losing to 9 men, but I want to get a neutral's perspective, because obviously, don't want to let the emotions get in the way. Luke, do you think that Hasenhüttl's the man for the job, or do you think that Southampton need to, let him go and look for someone else in the new season?
Well, if you think sacking him is the right idea, then you're absolutely clueless. Everything Cohen said is right. Who are you going to get in that would be better than him? And I've said the same. I don't want to go off topic too much, but exactly the same with Sheffield United and Wilder. I think it's a same situation really. Stick by them, let them sort it. Give them time. I hate clubs. I hate owners who just sack managers. So quickly. Ralph, what he's done is pretty insane. He's a top manager, and yeah, sacking him will be ridiculous. I think you've just got to keep by him. Like I said, he's got an owner that won't put too much into the club, which isn't his fault. He's doing what he can do. So sacking him would be the worst thing I think Southampton could possibly do.
Yeah, well, it's refreshing to hear it from a neutral's perspective, and we talk about losing the manager, by choice really. But let's talk about potentially losing the main man. He's been out of form recently. I think is it one goal in 7, 1 goal in 8, something like that. but Danny Ings in 12,
12.
it's even worse. You know, we've
Yeah.
spoken about Danny Ings before so many times about how important he is at Southampton. But James, do you think that from Ings's perspective, it's the right way to go? And if it is the right move to go, and if he is going to go, can life go on at Southampton, or are they in deep trouble without him?
I personally don't think he should leave. I think he should stick with Southampton, you know, because this form can turn around, and you can get into Europe. Maybe not this season, but and I think he can fire you into Europe. Him leaving to go to, let's say, City or Tottenham, just to sit on the bench most weeks, I think that's not good for his career. You know, he's in his prime. I think playing week in, week out with Southampton, I think that's like the correct decision to do, to stay at Southampton. I think it will be a massive loss for you if you was to leave them. But I feel like you would be able to get a good enough replacement, maybe someone young. But I don't think you should get rid of him. I don't think he should leave.
Didn't he sit on the bench at Liverpool for how many years? So he probably knows himself what it's like. You know, the years he wasted. So I don't, you know, it would be stupid to move. And it is the best for his career if he stays and, you know, he plays in a team that you know, he's the star man in. But at the end of the day, money talks. We all know that. So you just, you know, it's one of them. You're going to have to wait and see because, you know, money does talk.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
I think for me, I think obviously I love Danny Ings. You know, he was class for us last season. I think he scored 7 goals so far this season. Again, that's not terrible, but I think for us Saints fans, we feel he's irreplaceable. But then you look at the other side and you think, if he doesn't want to be here, what's the point in being here? You know what I mean? And it's a tough one because I think for his career, he has to stay. If he wants to play consistent football, if he wants to go and play for England, staying would be the perfect choice for him.
Yeah, when you look at it on the flip side, Alex, you've probably seen the links today. Obviously, if Aguero is to leave, which is starting to look more and more likely in the summer, Ings looks to be one of the main targets, if not the main target. Is he someone that you take, or are you slightly concerned by his injury history?
Personally, I wouldn't take him in. I'd say he's too injury prone. I'd say for us to replace Aguero. I'd rather have just say someone like Lautaro Martinez, his name is, I think, or like Haaland. But that would be. I doubt that would happen on his current form right now. But for Ings, I wouldn't take him in personally.
Yeah, well, it's nice to see it from another perspective, obviously, because you don't know what other teams would take. Like you said earlier, Cohen, about you know, he's irreplaceable for us. My view on it with Ings is that I think the thing is that a lot of it at the moment, it is paper talk, and I think what a lot of people need to realise is it's probably mostly a lot of it agent talk, in the sense of, I feel like there's obviously something they're trying to push towards the contract, whether it is financially. I know we've had Martin Semmens has actually come out and said it's not, but you just don't know. Whether it's he wants the release clause, I'm just not sure. But I do feel like they will get the contract over the line, and I think that it's important for the club to get him. I feel personally, with the price range that Southampton has, they're not going to get someone who's going to come in and fill Ings' boots, particularly not immediately. But look, we've spoken enough about Ings as well. You know, we all have a sort of idea of just how important he is at the club. But, you know, depending on his fitness in particular, can Southampton, even after the 9-0, even after losing 5 matches in a row for the first time since 1998, can they still get Europe this year, or should they focus on securing safety first, Cohen? What do you think?
I think Europe's a bit of a push this year. I think we'll bounce back but I don't. Yeah, I can't see us getting Europe this year. I think it's it's only like 8 points. But again, I don't know if I even want Europe now, because if you look at the financial state we're in, if we get Europe next season, we're more than likely going down. So I don't know if I even want Europe.
Yeah, well, you look at Wolves last year, was it last year? And they sort of struggled a bit towards the start when they first started playing in Europe.
Burnley as well. They really struggle, Burnley.
And teams who sort of, believe they've got that, they believe they've got the squad, and they qualify for Europe. They struggle in the league, and Southampton did a few seasons ago when they qualified for Europe as well. It is massively important depth-wise, and at the moment the club definitely doesn't have the depth for it. But obviously it would be a great achievement no matter what. Can they still win the FA Cup? Is that something that's still possible, do you think, James? Or do you think that the club should just focus now on, making sure they're in the Premier League? It's still a long, long way before, relegation. But do you think they just need to really focus on just getting the important points, making sure they're safe, and picking up for next season?
I think that I don't think you'll go down. I think you're safe. And I think, you can go for the FA Cup, but I don't think you will win it. I think, it's worth giving it a shot, But I think it's always worth keeping an eye on the league just in case, even though I don't think you can or you will go down. It's a difficult situation for you now because, if you go out of the FA Cup, then you don't really have much to play for this season. It becomes like it just pitties out. But I think you should go for it. Obviously, keep an eye on the league just in case, things were to get worse.
Definitely. Well, I think that's where it's dangerous. If they get knocked out of the FA Cup on Thursday against Wolves, like you said, they've not got a lot to play for, and suddenly, the players become less interested. Do they start pushing more because they want to play? Does the manager, is this where he comes in and maybe, you feel he can't afford to, but does he start to play a couple of faces who haven't played as much because there's not a lot to play for? And you do see it, you've seen it in years before where teams have been so safe and suddenly they've been dragged into it. And personally for me, I think they're too far away from a relegation battle. But also, like you said, it's so important to keep one eye on the table because you never know really in this league. I mean, they lost to Newcastle on Saturday, a team who is sort of, creeping a little bit now towards them.
Yeah, cheers for that, lads.
Yeah, well, anyway, we've got another topic anyway to go on. It's not all Southampton, don't worry. We will actually go on towards the bottom of the table. I know we did our rankings and our predictions that I actually missed. But we can start off with a positive for you, Luke, because I know that you're obviously a bit disappointed in yesterday. A huge win midweek against West Bromwich Albion. I've asked you this last week, and I'll ask you again. Has it changed? Can Sheffield United stay up?
Last week I said, let's put everything into it. Let's believe. I'm not writing us off. I still, it's so tough because you want to be biased. I mean, I don't think much has changed because no one expects us to win against Man United. That's 3 points, and that would be the same to getting a point against Man United, a point against City, and a point against Chelsea. So if you're trying to look at it positively, that's how I'm going to look at it. I think West Brom's a massive win, one that we had to win. We did that. We were the better team. We're a lot. I don't care what the table says. We're a better team than West Brom. We will finish above West Brom. I'm very confident of that, but I just don't see us staying up. I think Newcastle, Brighton, Burnley, all seem to pick up points when they need to, and I think the mountain we've got to climb now is too high. But at least we're giving it a go. At least we haven't just rolled over. We could still be on 2 points. So you've got to look at it positively. We haven't just rolled over. We're fighting, and we've just got to take it game by game and just see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. I think you have to look at other, like you said, the teams around you, and it was a bit of an unfortunate one this week. A few teams around just won. Newcastle, like you said, it's a massive win for them. Really, it gives them a bit of breathing space now. In terms of West Brom, can we all agree? Do we all think they're done? Do we all think they're the
I
one
think
team that we think
they're gone.
they're gone now?
Yeah,
They're gone.
Yeah,
they're
I think
gone.
obviously you got to feel for them in terms of some of the. I mean, for Sam Allardyce really, because they brought in a couple of players who could maybe change it a bit, and I think people like Maitland-Niles is going to come in and make a bit of a difference. But yeah, I just don't think they've got enough points already, and they're not going to win many games. They like was it Allardyce said, a must not lose game. I think it was a must win game. Whoever won that at least had a chance. And like you said, Luke, I think Sheffield United, it's going to be hard for them to stay up. Like really, really difficult. But they've definitely got a better chance than West Brom, I think, now.
I'm just going to say everybody then wrote West Brom off, which I agree. West Brom are still above us. They're still a point above us. But even though they are a point above us, I just think we are better than them. The reverse fixture when we lost to them, we absolutely dominated the game. We missed about 3 or 4 big chances. One was actually a yard out, and Mousse put it over the bar from a yard. Yeah, a yard. So things like that. If we'd have been clinical in that game, then we'd have had 6 points off them. So, that's us to blame. But we are definitely a better team than West Brom. We're in better form. We should be finishing above them.
Yeah, I think it's not necessarily important at this stage, as weird as it sounds, to actually look at the table in that sense, because I think you have to look at belief. I mean, Villa were, in all sorts of trouble a couple of games before the last game of the season, but they had that belief, and you sort of had that feeling that they would stay up just because of how they started to play. And I think there is something about Sheffield United. I still think it's going to be a massive uphill mountain to climb, but I don't think that there's, if they pick up some points that are a couple of surprises, then why can't they? I'm not going to completely write Sheffield United off yet. I think it's going to be very difficult, and it'd be amazing if they stayed up. But it's all really down to the results around them as well now. If they can pick up points against teams around them, then that's the most important. Does anyone else have anything to add to there?
I mean, just when you're on about the teams around them, you look at Brighton, they put together a run. They've won 2 and they've just drawn 1. I think if Sheffield United can do that, then they have a really good chance. It's those sort of runs that you go on determine whether you can stay up or not. And I think if Sheffield United manage to do like something similar to what Brighton have done, then they have a really good chance. But it's going to be very hard, as you say.
Yeah, definitely. Well, look, I think it's a good point to end. Thanks everyone for listening. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Shut the FA Cup Pod. Leave us some feedback as well if you want. What can we improve on? We're new. We've only just started, really. What do you want us to discuss? Is there anything in particular? Any club in particular? The Championship? Anything in the Football League in Europe? So yeah, I think that's a good place to end.
Yeah.
Have a great rest of the week. We'll see you next Friday.
Yeah. Thank you.
Cheers for listening.
Thank you for listening.
Bye.
See you.
Thank you.